and I quote, "I'll be there in a minute. Give me a second."
Time is relative, folks. Time is relative.
Yes. So, hey, cheers to everybody in the chat. They're a division rival. I don't care how many wins they get. Screw them.
That wasn't the take I was expecting to hear.
I want to gush over watching live Chris Tanev.
I think that we completely underestimate the skill it takes to play defense.
One highlight or several highlights does not a Calder trophy make.
I'm stepping in here. I'm going to be the crotchety old man here. They need to learn patience. They need to understand the tension and everything and the drama.
How dare! Look at this! How is McDavid not getting a penalty?
You guys need to calm down with this, okay? You guys need to calm down with it.
Nothing's calm right now, Tyler, especially at this time of year. Welcome to the Shifts and Pucks podcast. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter at Shifts and Pucks, Facebook.com Shifts and Pucks, YouTube.com Shifts and Pucks, Twitch.com Shifts and Pucks, and subscribe wherever you get your audio. As well, we are getting set up, but we are officially part of the Hockey Podcast Network. The jaw-dropping moments that make hockey. Experience them all with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Missouri listeners, listen up. DraftKings Sportsbook is now live in the Show Me State. New customers, this one's for you. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Well, we say hello to Sean. Sean, how are things out in Calgary? Oh, and before we begin, we do need to have this conversation. Of course, we're part of the Hockey Podcast Network. There may be more eyes on us. Body language, okay? Everybody here, Sean, watch your body language. You never know who's tweeting something out, okay? Body language.
Yeah. Well, I'm screwed. Yeah, I'm doing all right. Thanks, Kev. It's a little chilly here in Calgary. We got the nice snowfall over the past week, and yeah, it's starting to. Winter has arrived. Yay! But yeah, and also in full swing of the Christmas season here. So I just finished up three weekends in a row working at the Spruce Meadows Christmas Market. Ran into Devin actually, so hopefully I'm hoping to hang out with him this upcoming week, so I can prove to everyone that he is alive. Yes. And then this weekend was holiday parties and hanging out with friends. So it's been busy.
Yeah. Tyler, your body language, as always, is exemplary.
Well, just during the intro, I forgot my coffee, so I was rushing over there to go get it. Trying to find it again this morning. We got a little slush outside, I see, this morning here in Terrace. Made it back from Hazelton last night, was working the Prince Rupert Rampage, Hazelton Wolverines Central Interior Hockey League game. I take a couple weeks off, and then the time's flying by. The last time I actually put the red bands on was November the 2nd. So it's been a while. But no, it went pretty smoothly there. High scoring affair. Hazelton letting Rupert back in the game in the third period, and it ended up being 7-6. So it ended up being pretty entertaining after a bit of a slow start. So that was that, and was in the Fraser Valley last weekend briefly, so for a Christmas function there as well. So lots going on for me.
We're getting a steady dose of rain for the next little while here. This will be a rainy week in Vancouver. I prefer rain over snow, but I'm a weirdo, so I live in Vancouver. That's why maybe I live in Vancouver over Calgary. But yeah.
Yes, that's probably why.
Rainy and +8 as opposed to snow and -205 in Calgary. No. I have turned Vancouver soft for sure.
You don't do the cold. You don't do cold.
No, not anymore. Not anymore. And it gets when I get out there. If I ever get out to Calgary again, the last time was when we watched that Flames Canucks game back in before the pandemic. It wasn't that cold, but I felt colder than I should have. It was I'm completely soft now. So let's go through. It's been a while since we've all podcast. There were 6 games since the last podcast. I'll run through what happened. 5-4 win over Anaheim, which was absolute chaos. Just a chaotic game, but it was a 5-4 win over the Anaheim Ducks. A 3-2 loss to Macklin Celebrini and the Sharks. A 2-1 OT loss to the Kings on Hockey Night in Canada last Saturday. It was Canada versus Switzerland, quite frankly, when the Avalanche played the Canucks on earlier this week, and it's just Colorado is just on a completely other level. And Nathan MacKinnon, I'm going to say this, he is the best hockey player in the world right now. And I don't know if it's that close, Oiler fans. I'm sorry. 3-1 loss to the Avalanche. And then one of their better efforts of the year, despite a loss to the Mammoth 4-1. It was just one of those games where Vejmelka outplayed Lankinen, but Lankinen didn't play bad. It's just Vejmelka played better. And then Ratu should have had 3 goals. He only had 2. There was a goal that I think should have counted. I'll get Tyler one point maybe to have a look at this. It was ruled a kicking motion, but he side skated it. I don't know. I've seen Shorthouse and Ferraro were really that counted before. I don't understand. Anyway, they beat the very hot Minnesota Wild 4-2. Tom Willander scores his first goal in the National Hockey League, and EP25 also scored, and Ratu came up pretty big. Ratu had a really good game last night. He is starting to remind me a little bit of the guy that he was traded for, Bo Horvat. A little bit more, probably better defensively, I think, than Bo Horvat was back in the Bo Horvat days. But I think that this guy is going to be a solid center. Willander continues to look. We know where the Canucks are. We'll get into this a little bit here. We know where the Canucks are, but I think that they're seeing some things starting to develop. And Tom Willander, his skating is starting to improve. I think he will be a regular NHL player. EP25 is starting to play with a little bit more confidence. And goaltending-wise, with the Thatcher Demko, Adam Foote said, and Niels Höglander might play this week against Buffalo. Tolopilo is still not ready yet. So and then last night, we learned before warm-up, EP25 was out with a body injury. I'm going to say I can't remember which part. So
EP40, Kev.
Was it lower or was it upper?
No, you said EP25. It's
EP40. EP40. Sorry, I got this confused. Anyway, he was injured. He was ruled out before warm-up, or he tried to take warm-up and then he left. So injuries are a factor with the Canucks here. They are in the top 5 of man games lost. So, but we know the score. This team is not where anyone coming into this season hoped to be. So those are kind of some of my takeaways. Anything, I don't know if you two have anything to add on.
Yeah, I think goaltending wise, Tolopilo looks good for where he's at. He still needs some more seasoning done in the AHL. So hopefully Demko can come back and they can run with the Demko Lankinen tandem for a little bit. And then Willander and DPD are showing well. Ratu is showing well, which is great. Yeah, especially now that the Canucks have basically come out and said that they want to get younger and they want to give their younger players a look. So you want to see good games from Ratu, DPD, Willander. You want Lekarameki to start stepping up and start producing as well. And then it's going to be a tough season here, especially once they do make some moves. But anytime you get some performances from some of the younger players, that's going to help.
Yeah, if the want level, compete level. You can use whatever phrase you want, as long as it's not looking defeated to me from the players. Then I think they're in a pretty good spot. Like the Colorado game, I thought was a pretty entertaining game. It didn't look like the team had given up on it, and they lost. But if they're shooting for draft position here, then the losses are not something to be worried about. It's a process over results, really. I know that's a phrase that people can roll their eyes at, but right now the process of trying to bottom out and look ahead to the future, I think they're on the right track with that. Right now it's kind of like a rebuild starting to take place on its own, just because they are injury depleted, and it hasn't worked out as well as they thought, and it's kind of happening organically. And I smile about that, because that's I think probably the best outcome. When you start making big moves and trading big names, that's when it becomes a lot harder for people to stay on board with.
Yeah, and I mean, Jeff Merrick had a good point this week about rebuilds, as to how we just kind of use this as we use this a little bit more liberally than we probably should. Like we call everything a rebuild. Everybody should rebuild. The Colorado Avalanche last year traded half of their team, including both of their goalies, by this time. Do we call that a rebuild? What do we call that? Because that's pretty much a something, whatever you want to call it. And did they get too far in the playoffs? No, but they did that. So, and most of these, you look at the four teams that are in the bottom, really: the Flames, the Preds, the Blues, and the Canucks. And I would argue, although the Flames have been sort of in this rebuilding mode, I don't think the organization didn't plan to be here. The Predators certainly didn't plan to be here, and the Blues did not plan to be where they are. And I don't know if the Canucks did. This all feels like an organic sort of time to rebuild sort of moment. And I think when I look back in history, and one of the things that tanker commentators forget, and I'll just blast this out: you keep putting teams and calling them tanks when they did not tank. And I'm going to point out the Colorado Avalanche did not tank. They've collapsed. There's a difference. Yeah. There's a difference between tanking and absolutely sucking.
So we're going to say that the Canucks are in the collapse territory. I mean, it's fine with me, honestly.
The thing with tanking is that you're intentionally being bad. So we're talking about Buffalo, we're talking about Chicago, we're talking about Toronto and Edmonton. Like those teams. There were teams that legitimately tanked when Colorado just had. They had their run with the Sakic's and all that, and then they had to get younger. So they got younger. They got a couple pieces in Landeskog and McKinnon, and then they had one good season, right? And then with Patrick Watt at the helm, and then he left just before the season started, and Bednar took over. And that first season was an absolute mess. It was not a tank job at all. It was an absolute mess, and that's when they got Makar. So I think the problem is the wording and how liberal people use the term rebuild, and how liberal people use the term tank. So I think when you look at what Colorado did last year, as you said, Kev, they reconstructed or retooled their roster. They kept their core, and I think if you can sort of get past just the corporate buzzwords that rebuild and tank are, what you're trying to do is build up your next core that you're going to try and build around and build a contender around. And with where the Canucks were at, even just going into last season, coming off of that good the season where they won the Pacific Division, and they looked like they had a core that they could build around. And then everything went down with last season, and they had to trade Miller, and they did not have the trade. They did not have the leverage to make a really good trade for Miller, and they had to take a risk on taking on Philip Hedl and his health history, and it hasn't paid off. So now you're looking at, okay, what does this new core look like? And I don't think we're not there yet. And that's why when we've been very much hesitant to want to call what the Canucks need to do a rebuild or whatever on this podcast for a while now, but I'm definitely on team rebuild now, but that doesn't mean I'm on team tank. Because when you look at the teams that have done the best at actually a proper rebuild, where you get younger, you build up a new core and everything, most of the top end teams that have done that did not lose on purpose. Did not just void themselves of any talent on the roster outside of young players. So it's because once you do that, it's a long road back, especially when to build that winning culture, to build that drive forward culture. Edmonton struggled with that for years. How many first overall picks did they have to go through before they found that right mix, right?
Yeah.
But it is needed with this Canucks team. You do need to figure out what the next core is going to look like.
If you're going to start putting more younger players in, or start plucking out of the farm system in a more dramatic fashion, then the whole sink or swim idea of throwing these guys out there, if they actually are swimming and it doesn't look impossible, and then guys are feeling defeated before the game even begins, then that could work. That could work. And we've seen other examples, and Sean just talked about Edmonton and their struggles in the past when they went through a rebuild. I mean, it looked like they had been defeated before the game even started. I mean, there wasn't much belief there for long stretches of time. And then even after they got Connor McDavid, it took a while before they got things turned around. So, yeah, I mean, if it keeps going the way that it has the last stretch of games here, they might win one or two here and there, but for the most part, they're not going to win very many games, and they're going to stay near the bottom of the standings. Then, I mean, that's not losing on purpose. That's just, hey, the team's not good enough, and we got to reset for next year. So, I wouldn't call that rebuilding. I would just call that's just kind of happening on its own. That's letting the bottom fall out.
Yeah. Sean will probably understand this analogy a little bit more, but this is sort of like Edge. This is an opportunity to get the money in the bank contract and cash in on a chip of getting a legitimate top 5 player that will play in your team for a long time, potentially. I do say potentially because you never know what's going to happen, but this is a really good draft. And if this is the year that you're going to be in the bottom 5, this is a great opportunity for Vancouver to be there. And I just want to remind a couple of people of something. We talked about Edmonton. In a couple of years, they are going to face the dilemma of Connor McDavid, whether he stays or whether he goes. And if he goes, they are in deep trouble. I'm telling you this right now. And so there's an opportunity here for the Canucks just to start building this core up a little bit and continuing to develop the players that they have. And they have some good pieces here. Let's not forget that they have Braden Coots, who is going to be a really good center. Tom Villander, we're starting to see that develop. Let's not forget Victor Mancini, a huge, massive defenseman. Sawyer Mineo, I think, is going to play games. We'll get into Linus Karlsson here in a bit, but Jonathan Lekkerimäki, I think, is making some strides as well. And Atu Ratu, there's some pieces already here in Vancouver. It's not this direly depth. I was just saying, for me, the issue, the two questions there's 3 questions right now: Demko, Quinn Hughes, and EP40, and finding that elite talent that can take you to the next level.
That is the issue with the Canucks, is they're actually a young team comparatively to the rest of the league. but what they're missing is that top end talent that's in the 25 or younger age range. If they were in a situation where they were actually competitive, they'd be in a very, very good situation. With the age range that they have, but they're not. So it's finding that's why I said it's finding the next core, finding the next group of players that are going to be able to drive the play and drive the offense of this team.
Glad that you point out some of those players there, Kevin, because I think sometimes that gets overlooked in this whole discussion about the future. Is that there are some players in the system, even some that are playing now that I would say are showing signs of progress. So the organization is going to feel good about that, and that's probably going to steer them away from the whole strip it to the studs concept.
And I said this earlier this year too. If the Canucks do decide to go on a rebuild. And they're in a decent spot because one the position you can bring in younger forwards, especially high end offensive forwards into a team and get into a competitive window quicker if you have the blue line, and because the defense to play defense properly at the NHL level takes a few years to figure out. And it's not, you can't, there's very, very, there's a very few teenagers that make the NHL, even though the league has gotten younger in the last 20 to 25 years. It's actually gotten older in the last 5 on average. So teams are going back to marinating their prospects in the AHL and not rushing them as much as they were 5-10 years ago. So when you look at where the Canucks are at with, as we said, Petey, Willander, Mignot, Mancini, don't forget about Kirill Kudryavtsev. They've got some young defensemen that are showing some promise to different extents, but if they can get some if they say they finish in the bottom here and they get some draft lottery luck and get a really good top pick, say they get McKenna, right? You have McKenna and Elias Pettersson to build around up front, along with Karamaki, Braden Coots. That's a start, right? And that makes you feel a lot better with where the Canucks are at. And that's the thing with rebuilds and the teams that have had successful ones and have gone on to be contenders and win cups and everything. They've got lottery luck. You can't just say we're going to go rebuild and we're going to get the high picks and we're going to be able to turn ourselves around. You have to get the lottery luck, and you have to hit on every first round pick, and then you have to find players in the rest of the draft in other ways too. It's something that the Canucks need to do, but there's no guarantee, which is what we've always been saying, is there's no guarantee that taking a rebuild approach is going to lead to success.
Yeah, because we've seen, yes, everybody has brought up look at how many number 1 picks people have had the Stanley Cup championships. The Toronto Maple Leafs had 5 top 10 picks as part of their core 4, when you include Morgan Riley in that conversation. And sorry, Devin, how many rounds did they win?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we need to measure it in how many rounds did they win. It's just, are they really heading towards contender status or not? And
yeah, well,
I think that's more. That's
but
what it is.
Point being, it's great that you get some of these top 5 picks. Of course, you need elite talent to win. Nobody's disputing that, but I would argue that cups are won what you do from rounds 2 to 7. More than it is around the top 5. I think it's easy to find a top 5 pick and say, yes, he's a franchise player that's going to lead us somewhere. But you still have to build a team around him. As Sean has said all the time, hockey is a team game. Like, you still need goaltending, you still need depth, and you need a little bit of luck, and you need to be a bit tougher than I think some fans care to admit. Like, as much as everybody hates the Florida Panthers right now, the reason they been to 3 cups is because 3 cup finals and won 2 in a row is because they were tougher than everyone else.
Yeah, tougher. And then they picked up top end players. Yeah, they were top picks, but they were top end players that they acquired not via the draft. Whether it's Matthew Tkachuk, Seth Jones for that last year, there's so many different ways to do it, and yes, getting top end talent from the top end of the draft definitely helps. And like I said, it's what the Canucks need to do. They do need to get younger. They need to focus on draft and develop, which they have already ever since the Alvin and Rutherford have taken over. You look at Linus Karlsson for one, Arshdeep Bains another. Atu Ratu wasn't a draft pick, but they got him. They traded for him, and he became they've developed him, and now they're working on some of the blue line there with D. Petey and Vilander. Like, it's you need that to be a good team, because whether or not you use those picks or use those prospects, but if you can draft and develop and create at least a value for them, then they can be used to move for players when you are looking to make a push.
Yeah. And the one other thing I'll say here, this is probably a longer conversation, but the Quinn Hughes question is lingering over this club, unfortunately. I think probably far too early, but let's just throw a scenario in here. This is just me, but if the Canucks win the draft lottery, if they end up picking first and it's a Gavin McKenna, and it will be Gavin McKenna, don't let anybody fool yourself any differently. It will be Gavin McKenna at the end of the day. He's the best player in the draft. They get Gavin McKenna. I'm not necessarily convinced that Quinn Hughes is going to say, "See you later. We had a bad year. Talk to you later." I'm not convinced that happens. I don't know Quinn Hughes from a hole in the ground, but you can't sit there and tell me that he's just gonna simply look at the record and say, "See you later," because I believe that Quinn Hughes's question was always about where's the team going, and if you're getting Gavin McKenna, I don't know, that seems like a good step to me, but I could be wrong. So right now the Canucks, with the win last night, are actually in 31st place. They are 1 point ahead of Nashville. They are behind Calgary. So it goes Calgary, Vancouver, Nashville. How exciting for me that my two favorite teams are in the bottom 3 in the league. It's just great to watch hockey this year. It is so exciting. Yeah, so that's where they're at right now. Of course, we're not doing any lotto simulators or anything like that.
Okay. Just on the. Let's not lop me in with this. Somebody else on the screen here loves the draft lottery simulator machine in the past. Now he hasn't done it yet. I don't think. Sean, you haven't brought out the simulator, right?
No.
Well, you're making great progress.
I don't think it's until after the Olympics.
You're really maturing. You're really growing up with this.
Yeah.
I'm always like, close the laptop, put it away.
Put it away. I have seen people put it out already, but it's
Oh, I know. I think that's just.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a bit of a when it's being done now, it's a bit of a sad commentary on where the team's at, but also it's just like it's a lottery.
Yeah, exactly.
People seem to forget it's a lottery. Okay.
Yeah,
there's only one that counts, and there's a lot of luck involved. So just calm yourselves with that.
Yeah, for sure. Couple of things that were interesting this week. I believe Evander Kane was scratched on Friday night. He did get back in the lineup on Saturday. I don't know. I feel like Sean and I differ on this. I don't think Evander Kane has been truly that effective this year. I think I actually thought he played really well last night. It was at 3-1. He was on the ice with Rat 2, and he made a couple of really good, smart defensive plays. So I will give him credit where credit is due. For the most part, though, I have found that he's taken too many penalties in the offensive zone. I don't think he's been that effective in the defensive end of the ice. And I think he has definitely lost a step, unfortunately. But I was sort of surprised he was scratched. I didn't think that would happen, but Adam Foote delivered a little bit of a message to him.
I'm just trying to think. Wasn't there a bit of a flu bug going through the team?
Yeah, I just
this
got the
week.
question mark in the agenda. He didn't play last. He didn't play Friday.
Yeah,
night.
I think everything you have said there, Kevin, is correct. Like that, he hasn't been what the Canucks have wanted, but I think I've been pretty adamant saying that, like, yeah, if he's a third line player on your team, you're good. But they're needing him to be a top 6 player, and that's the problem. So yeah, he's just in the where he's at in his career. He's miscast as a top 6 winger. He's much better off as a if the Canucks had, say, Ratu, Kane, and Sherwood on the line as a third line, that would just be the worst line to play against. Just an absolute pain in the ass line. But that would be fine. But having him up on Petey's wing just doesn't. It's not where he needs to be at this point to be put into a position to succeed.
Any add there, Tyler?
No, it's I mean, it's just it's unfortunate that it's a chance taken again on somebody that hasn't worked out. I mean, we can't really be too surprised. I mean, he was already trending in the wrong direction when they were going for him. So the dumb penalties thing with Kane is, I mean, they should have known that. We've seen lots of that in the past too.
Yeah.
And that only gets worse when you start losing your speed and you're having to cheat now a little bit.
Yeah. But on the good side, there's a player that's starting to make a little bit of a wave. And, I think one of the things that he's starting to do, and I forgot about this, but someone pointed this out this week. When Tom Wilson flattened Filipino in Washington last year, it was earlier in the season. It was Linus Karlsson that went up and stood up to Tom Wilson. Not the guys you thought would. And I'm not saying that Linus Karlsson is not considered. I don't think Linus Karlsson came in with the reputation of being a tough guy, and I don't think he has the reputation of being a tough guy. But he certainly seems to have the reputation of being a really good teammate. He is starting to fit in very nicely within this team. I don't know if he's a top 3 winger, like a top line winger, but I think he's a definite competent middle 6 winger that I think can play almost some Connor Garland type of minutes for you going forward. Maybe that's a comparison that's just drawn in my head, but he is a UFA. What do we do with Linus Karlsson?
You need players like that. If you're on in a rebuild, you need players like that.
Yeah.
So I think you keep him. He's on the younger side too. Yeah, he's a UFA at the end of the year, but he's still he just turned 26. So yes, it's not young, but the average age in the NHL is actually he's still below that mark right now. So yeah, for me, I think he's someone you keep you keep around. It's not someone you trade away unless you get a ridiculous deal for, which you shouldn't. Like as nice of a surprise he is. Guess what? He's the surprise, and he's not going to fetch you anything more than a 3rd round pick at fucking very best. Like, so for me, that it's much more worth keeping him here with the Canucks and letting him develop more and maybe become at least a middle of the lineup player, and go from there.
Yeah, Sean basically covered how I feel about that too. Like if you're going to start moving big established names for picks and such, I mean the Karlsson's not going to net a big return, and you need some guys to play. So I'd say keep him around and be part of the transition or whatever we're going to call it here.
Yeah. He's been really good this year. I think, yeah, I've been really impressed with him. He's been noticeable in most games. Anything else with the Canucks we need to talk about?
Well, I think going back to the rebuild talk is the how is the market going to react to this long term? Because we know what the social media side of the market's going to do. This is what they wanted, and they're going to get it. Whether or not it's done in the exact way they want it to be done is still up in the air. But how does the market as a whole react to it? When you're talking about the ratings of the sports shows, you're talking about ticket sales, you're talking about sponsorships here. How does the Vancouver market handle this?
Yeah, and we're in a bit of an interesting time too, where there's some, and Sean and I talked about this in the past, where there's some other affordable sporting options for fans to spend their money on these days. The Canucks are going to be forced to lower ticket prices, in my opinion. Otherwise, they're going to see a lot of empty seats, and I don't think ownership's going to tolerate that. So that's always been the reluctance in the past. There's been lots made about chasing playoff dates. I mean, I think the issue is not wanting the season ticket base to soften and have a bunch of empty seats out there. And that's the part that I'm always skeptical about. It's easy for the people that go to 1 or 2 games a year or none and are very engaged watching on TV. That makes them great fans still, but it's not as big a financial commitment or a choice to make as it is for a season ticket holder. So that remains to be seen. If the prices come down, then I think you're going to maybe attract some new fans and keep the energy in the building good, and hopefully there'll be some optimism and some energy that way. But what that remains to be seen for me. And then with the media part of it is, are they going to continue to reinforce the concept of tearing things down and rebuilding and going through a stretch of ugly hockey? Or are they going to nitpick the shit out of it when the losses are piling up? And I think we've seen some evidence already that, from past years, that because the rebuild word wasn't said and the losses are piling up, then they're still criticizing the hell out of the effort, and really that you have what you have, right?
And I think again, also it's whether or not the rebuild or whatever the Canucks end up doing, however you want to word it, define it, however, matches with the one or two ways that they think it should be done, right? That's because if we're going to generalize, when the media and a lot of the fans on social media talk about a rebuild, they want players to be traded out for picks and young players and prospects, while the Canucks might be looking at wanting to add a player that is in AHL, already playing in the AHL or hasn't popped in the NHL yet, instead of a junior age prospect. And while it hasn't worked as well in the past as you would like, it's still not that, like, if the Canucks go that way, which I expect, that's what I'm expecting. Like, they'll get like a pick, and then they'll get like a young NHL, another player of the ilk of like a Karlsson or a Baines, but on the younger side. I think seeing how the market reacts to that, and any trades that happen that don't fit into their idea of what a rebuild should be, is going to be something to watch.
Yeah. And ultimately, social media has a voice. Please don't get me wrong. It does impact things, but the fact of the matter is I think this happens in Calgary. I think this happens in Vancouver. This is sort of the same thing. Ultimately, the voice that counts the most is the one that is paying the money to go to the games, or paying the money to have the sponsorships. I think those are unfortunately the bigger voices that impact what teams want to do. And it ultimately does come down to what the sponsors and the paying public wants. If the sponsors and the paying public want some sort of rebuild that everybody else is talking about on social media, I think that probably happens. It doesn't. I don't know. Ultimately, it's the money that goes around. Like, we can scream and shout and yell all we want how rebuilds should work, but I don't want to discount that voice. But ultimately, from an owner's perspective, they're looking at the money that's coming in, right? That's, as Tyler was mentioning, that's why you might see tickets go lower, because that's whether you like Francisco Aquilini or not, his objective here is to make money. And that's, I don't think I'm saying any tales out of school here. That's his, that's what he's trying to do. And that's ultimately what it is. Now could the risk of him wanting a playoff team when it's not necessarily time be an issue? For sure. But we've talked a lot about managing up. I do believe Jim Rutherford is doing a better job of managing up than Jim Benning ever did. So, we'll see how things go here, but ultimately it's about the money. It's about the money.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you guys. I mean, to me, the sort of like the broader feel of the situation that I have right now, though, is I don't sense that there's many people on the side of it's only going to take a couple pieces to turn it around.
No.
I think everybody can kind of feel the inevitability of where we're headed here with this, right?
The issue is not that. I don't think it's the expectations on how long the rebuild should take, right? Because I think there's people who think they can turn it out in 3 years and then 6. If it's the full tear it down to the studs rebuild, that's closer to 10 than more people are willing to accept.
Yeah.
So and that's with everything going right as well.
Yeah.
If you don't get the lottery luck and you get knocked down and don't get the McKennas of the world, it's going to take longer. But if you get the lottery luck and
if this thing collapses and they win the lottery, I will be the first one to admit that criticizing the idea of shooting for a lottery win was I can eat crow on that one if that happens. I mean, we're talking about the Vancouver Canucks here. I mean, when has good fortune like that ever been something that you can rely on? Honestly, right? I mean, it would be fantastic if it happened, but man, oh man, to just plan around a lottery win for McKenna is.
And that's where the whole tank idea, I think, it falls apart for me, is that you are purposely losing to just give yourselves a minute better odds at a lottery that may not, for a player that may or may not turn out. So I'm all for a rebuild and getting younger and all that, but it's the purposely tanking and trading away players because that could help you in the medium to long term just for the sake of that. No, I don't see that. That's not something I see that this team is going to do. I think they are going to be a little bit more strategic about it than I think a lot of the loud voices on social media and that phone into the sports shows, right into the sports shows kind of want. But that's where you need the patience. And unfortunately, yes, as a Canucks fan, having to being told you have to be patient again is not something you want to hear. But it's the truth. If the Canucks are going to go on a rebuild that a lot of people are wanting, you're going to have to be patient.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. One more thing I do want to touch on, and I totally forgot about this, but I do want to send our best wishes to the Pettersson family, who had some very horrible news this week regarding the loss of their baby, posted on Instagram. You can go see that for themselves, but I did want to touch on that as well, because that's That's some sad news. And it's, just a reminder when you're criticizing players on social media, they're human. They may make more money than you, but they are human. And they have a lot to go through in their own way. And yeah, I can go on a tangent for that. But
yeah, I mean, it's easy for people to sort of forget that part of it. If you were to go and I just did a quick search for his name with Baby, and the part that I find kind of wrenching about it is you start to hear from people that have had their own experience with that. And
yeah,
it's a sobering experience pretty fast when you start searching.
Yeah. We'll get to the Olympics here, but first, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins in partnership with DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE New York 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-878-9777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, pass-through per wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies in jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expires in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. Copyright NHL 2025. All rights reserved. And as they say with the BC gambling ads, please play responsibly. All right. Well, we are getting closer to the Olympics. That's the one good thing about this season is we've got the Olympics in Milan, Italy to talk about. We've got two big issues facing us. We'll hit the second one, which is probably a bit more significant. But I think there was a lot of debate about the Four Nations, whether Connor Bedard should have been part of that team. But now Connor Bedard has absolutely made a statement, and has Macklin Celebrini. And even to a lesser extent, Matthew Schaefer has put himself in the get ready to go to the Olympics conversation, as he is on the list for defensemen. How many of the three are on the team for you?
I think Schaefer is going to be very tough to make the team. All the blue liners that were on that team and at the Four Nations, I think, have played well enough to be back. And with Schaefer again, like, he's an offensive defenseman. If you're bringing him, you want to put him in a spot to succeed. He's not going to supplant Cale Makar as your number one power play guy, and Josh Morrissey's your number two power play guy, right? So if he does go, it'll be as like the 8th or 9th defenseman, but I just don't see it. He's played well. He'll be there in 4 years, but he'll be a big part of the team in 4 years. But I think at this point, I think it'd be asking too much of him.
This isn't a topic I've spent a lot of time on, but my feeling is if we're talking Bedard and Celebrini, I feel like one of the two is going to be there, but probably not both of them. I'd lean towards Bedard at this point. They got to be careful not to do what happened with the 06 Olympics in Turin, where they went too hard on the veterans and left Sidney Crosby off the team, right? I don't think that mistake's going to happen here. There's still going to be an emphasis on having experience. They have a pretty reliable blueprint to work with from the Four Nations tournament, which was just earlier this year. And, the rules will be different. It's not going to be NHL rules, but it will be actually smaller than NHL ice. We'll get to that in a sec. But I think they're going to want to try to keep us at the team pretty similar to what they had for the Four Nations face-off tournament, with obviously a few extra players, given that the rosters are bigger. So going with all three of those names that you mentioned that's quite a bit of change, in my opinion.
I think we'll see Matthew Schaefer at the World Championships. I don't think we'll see him at the Olympics. I think Sean is right. There's that defense group has there's going to be some other players that have a legitimate argument that didn't make the team. Like, just in this example, I think Mackenzie Weegar will face an argument here. I think some other, I think there's still some people that will want Evan Bouchard on the team. There's just a few other players that I think will make that argument there. There's still the question of Drew Doughty as well, I think, if he'll be on the team or not. I think Bedard and Celebrini will both be on the team. It's really hard for me to make an argument for them not to be on the team. I mean, they're both in the top 3 to 5 in scoring this year. I think Celebrini is a future captain of the team. I think Bedard will probably wear a letter too, but my big question through all of this is I know that there's the Tom, and I think the ice is making part of this conversation. But do we know if Matthew and Brady Tkachuk are going? Like, Matthew's named to the Olympic team. Are we certain that Matthew is going to be healthy? And this is a little bit different than the Four Nations because you're going to have some other teams like Slovakia and Latvia and all of those. You have an opportunity, if you're not going to play Bedard and Celebrini on a regular basis, that they're going to get kind of that Olympic taste for 2030. So you're building your future here. So I think that there's an argument to have Bedard and Celebrini on the team. I'm not. This going to sound really. I think some people are going to scratch a head. I'm not sure I think there's a better argument for Bedard and Celebrini than there is for Tom Wilson. As I duck.
I don't think that's a great take either. No.
Yeah, the ice may be smaller, but it's all still going to be double IHF officiated.
Yeah.
Tom Wilson is one reckless play away, the way he plays, from being suspended and not being like kicked out of a game. Just the way he plays, and the way double IHF can will officiate. I think you're looking at. I think there are spots available up front for sure. Konechny, Hagel, and Cirelli are all haven't really played up to the level that you want going into the Olympics. And you want skill in the Olympic game in an international game, even if the ice is smaller. But I think Tom Wilson, he may be on the team, but he could be just more too much of a liability just because of how the game is officiated compared to the NHL. You have to remember the Four Nations tournament was officiated by NHL refs under NHL rules. So that's why we were able to have all those fights in the round robin game against the US. There's no fighting in allowed like
in the Olympic tournament
in the NHL.
Yeah.
So
there'll be some or most of the officiating team for the Olympics will be NHL referees, but they're still using the double IHF rule book. So it's going to be different.
Yeah.
So I think I would be very surprised if both Bedard and Celebrini are left off of it. I think both should be on the team. I think they've played their way onto it. And it's not like the other thing with Schaefer. This is his first. He's still a young rookie. These both Bedard's on season 3. This is Celebrini's sophomore year, his second year. So they both have a full season of a decent amount of NHL games and everything under their belts, playing at the top level. I think they're ready, but I think Schaefer's there's just too much of competition in the on the blue line and incumbents that are good enough that I just don't think he'd be able to crack it. And then because who are you taking off that blue line if everyone's healthy?
Well, I mean, you're not really. That's the
I know everyone's going to say Parayko, but who's the GM of Team Canada?
He's not being taken.
John Armstrong.
No,
Yeah, he's not taking off, and he played very well for Team Canada in the Four Nations. Like he's a very good defenseman. So everyone's going to have their favorite, like sort of that style of defenseman that they want on the team. And Flames fans have every right to want Weegar on that team. I think he's good enough to be on that team. But I think just when you look at everyone, if everyone's healthy, I think you go back with those 8 defensemen again. And then you get like one extra forward that wasn't named to the Four Nations. And you're looking at there's I think the 3 I listed, Cirelli, Hagel, and Konechny are the ones that are up for grabs. Maybe even Marchand as well. Like
Marchand, although Marchand leads the league in goals, the
Yeah.
ones I wonder about Konechny, Jarvis. I think I wonder about Seth Jarvis too. I think who's the coach of that Olympic team? I think Cirelli is going to be that fourth line center is going to be very interesting because you got Cirelli in there, you got Suzuki, you've got Scheifele. Bo Horvat has entered the conversation, as is Wyatt Johnson. So I think that's going to be a very fascinating position. And you got one extra player. I
don't think Seth Jarvis is in tough. He's got 16 goals in 27 games, so that's top. He's tied with Marchand with 16 goals, right? So, and Hagel's got 17 as well. So like it's going to be tough, but I think when you look at, it's the Olympics. This isn't the Four Nations where you had the NHL style officiating and rules. It's the IIHF, and I think if you leave Celebrini and Bedard or one of them off, I think that's a miss in my opinion. I think those guys are, and then you talk about wanting to give them experience for 2030. It doesn't matter. It's the Olympics. You're taking the best team to win, but even then, I think those 2 guys give you the best chance.
I agree with you.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice if you can look at the future in some regard, but this isn't a development situation. This is a win now type of deal.
Yeah, but I think both of them eventually are going to be wearing letters, like a captain and an assistant captain on that team, and I think just getting them acclimating. Getting Macklin Celebrini with a player that he's being compared a lot to, Sidney Crosby, is going to do wonders for his career. If I'm a Sharks fan, I'm like, yeah. And Connor with Connor. Right?
Yeah.
And with Schaefer, the other thing before we move on to the ice, with the goaltending situation the way that it is, I don't know if I want to put Matthew Schaefer in a situation where we do not have the best goaltending right now. It's still shaky, in my opinion. I think you still want to go with the veteran defenseman in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
The ice is the other question. So Bill Daly came out this week and said, if this isn't fixed, we're not going.
So he's talking about the building being ready. I don't think he addressed the size of the ice.
Yeah, it said if there's no rink completed, there's no NHL players going to the Olympics. That was from NHL Deputy Commissioner Bill Daly when he spoke to the Daily Face-Off this week. Now, what looks like the ice issue is that it's going to be 3 feet shorter than a regular NHL rink, so it's going to be smaller. And it was this was actually mentioned a while ago. Actually, Doug Armstrong has talked about this, but this hit this week a lot. So it's, I guess, should we be worried? I mean, we gave people a little bit of a heads up a few weeks ago about this. I still think everything is going to work out. I'm not incredibly worried about it. Should we be? Should I be? Or
I think the timeline, as far as having the building ready to go, I'm not concerned about that. But what do they do about the ice dimensions? I mean, is that fixable at this stage? I mean, that's just already adding to a tight construction timeline. are both rinks going to? Because people keep saying the rink. I mean, there always are two arenas for Olympic hockey, so are both going to be the same dimensions? I haven't heard that. And then if they do decide to go with a smaller sheet of ice, how do they do it? Do they take the length all out of the neutral zone, or do they take a little bit out of each zone? Like there's some questions still here.
Yeah, I think they'll end up getting the arenas done, and in time for the NHL players will go. I think the IHF and the IOC, it would be a massive black mark on the Olympics if that happens. So they'll do everything they can to get that done. Whether or not the arena is still a little bit smaller, or how they do that, that is actually the real question. I think it's just they're to pull out this late in the game for something like that. I think would just be a massive PR nightmare for everyone involved, the NHL and PA as well.
Yeah.
Tyler, I don't see a scenario
where the NHL players are not going. I mean, Bill's saying that just to put the pressure on the people involved to stay on focus, but I don't see a scenario where they don't go. There's been too much invested into this for it to not happen. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm looking at this. I think there's only one rink.
Because I heard that there was two rinks, but I may be wrong about that, but there's typically two rinks to get both the women's tournament and the men's tournament all scheduled.
Yeah, it looks like it's only one rink.
I don't know how they're going to schedule that then.
Because they had two in Vancouver.
Games all day, every day.
Yeah, I saw that. Like, if you listen to headlines on Saturday night, Friedman was saying it's a pretty crunch schedule. So, well, maybe the venue's in Milano. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it is all being done at one, but I don't know how they're going to do that because it's typically been two, and it's busy at both arenas.
Yeah.
Well, the women's tournament, it looks like it basically, like, the preliminary rounds are all before the men's tournament even starts.
Yeah.
And then it's spread out that way. It looks like.
There you go. Well, man, there's a lot on the line with the construction timeline then. Holy smokes.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that is something to be fascinated about. One more thing before we go. Congratulations to the Whitecaps. It was a great year. It was exciting to see them get as far as they did. Nobody expected this. Chris is not here, but he was so excited about Thomas Mueller joining the Whitecaps, and he brought such a fresh energy. And I won't comment on how Inter Miami played like Italian soccer players and acted like they got shot when they got contacted. Oh, did I comment on that? Sorry. But
this is football we're talking about. Don't be surprised.
I'm not surprised, but I just think congratulations to the Whitecaps. They had a really good year. Hopefully things work out with this new building. However this works out, I think that's a longer conversation, which includes Vancouver's practice facility, the Canucks practice facility, which still is an ongoing issue as well. It's hard to find land in a city that doesn't have a lot of land. Anyway.
Yeah. Just on the Whitecaps. So what was really fun to see about it was just how they captured the imagination of so many people that weren't watching them before. I put myself in there. I was paying attention to them a little bit. I might go to a game every couple of years, but this became clear the schedule, appointment viewing. You look at the match against LAFC where they had 54,000 inside BC Place. The watch party had for yesterday, 20,000 plus.
Yeah, 20,000.
There's got to be a way to keep the Whitecaps of Vancouver long term, and this should certainly help push it in the right direction. There is an appetite for this sport in this market, and it was cool to see the ride. Unfortunately, coming up short, but yeah, it was a lot of fun.
For sure. Anything else?
Yeah, I just want to say, like, the whole Vancouver connection and all that with the after tying up, they get the shot off both posts. Very 94 Nathan Lafayette vibes, unfortunately.
How did that not go in? Yeah.
I don't know. Oh,
yeah, it's tough.
And all those Miami defenders were just standing around too. Like, they weren't great in the first part of that game, and then once they got the lead, they took control, unfortunately. So,
yeah.
But good to have someone else in the market making some noise. I think that's great for this market. Anything else we need to talk about? We went a little over.
No, I don't think so. I think that's it was a very calm, rational discussion of a team that's struggling right now.
Yeah.
So we'll try to keep it that way.
For sure. How do we follow everyone?
I am Beardy Canucks 03 on X, and I am Team Michael Bublé.
Yes, I'm on X at T-Noble, T-N-O-B-L-E.
Chris is Schneid's, SCHNEIDZ. He is still looking for Bowie.
Yes.
If you are in the Kelowna area, if you see a cat, Chris has put it all over social media. Check that out. Devin, as Sean mentioned, working, but you can find him on Instagram at Devin Holmes Smith. I am KEVOLE on most social media, and we thank you for watching. And of course, Facebook.com Shifts and Pucks, YouTube.com Shifts and Pucks, Twitch.com Shifts and Pucks. Subscribe wherever you get your audio, as well as on the Hockey Podcast Network. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.